free speech during board meetings. The second part of the resolution would be to authorize the district security department to enforce a no trespass zone after appropriate notification to the public. On board meeting nights, so that the public cannot disrupt the public meetings of the board. You have the power to enforce decorum in your boardroom, and you would not allow this kind of behavior to disrupt board business and disrupt the public's ability to hear board business. And so the same resolution would apply, the same idea would apply to the perimeter of this building. It would not restrict in any manner the speech, but it would restrict people from trying to disrupt the meeting by beating on windows and doors.
Right. We'll open it up for discussion. Any discussion on this? Director Leporpion.
Sure. So I have two questions, I guess. One, the first is, as far as public comment goes, right? Because that would be the one concern. Is would there be any concerns as to would this no trespass thing affect in any way the amount of public comment we're getting, or make people feel like they cannot come give feedback?
This resolution has no effect on public comment. What it does have an effect on is standing close to the building and beating on the wall with hands or objects, which completely disrupts the meeting. So it doesn't have any effect on speech. It just has an effect on disruptive behavior right next to the perimeter of the building.
And then would that include things like air horns or like loud music, or what's the line?
All we can enforce is our own property, and so for the sidewalks are not district property, so there can be disruptive behavior on sidewalks, city sidewalks, but you can enforce this kind of a zone for the perimeter of this building or any building that the board is conducting its business in, if the goal is to make sure you can conduct business and the public can participate.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this topic? Director Blasi, do you have? Vice Chair Beto? Director Kylo?
I'm thinking.
Director Goss? You want to use the mic, please? Thank you.
I guess I can't help but feel we're pandering to poor behavior by establishing a different spot for poor behavior out in our parking lot. And then the next step, we're worried about cars in our parking lot and that sort of thing. If I would vote for it around the building, but I wouldn't vote for replacing it with something that's going to continue to cause us problems.
Okay. Any other discussion? And then we can save the answers from Mr. Dakopoulos. Who else raised a hand next? I missed. Director Hyan, did you raise it? Director Advisor Mebinton.
What is the appropriate notification that?
Well, the notification would occur after the board meeting, where the district would have to publish the resolution and notify the public that this is going to be the plan. It wouldn't be effective tonight, but it would be effective in the future. And I don't know all the ways that the district could reach out to the community to say, we're trying to create a safe space for speech, but we can't have people who routinely disrupt the meeting so no one can hear.
Advisor Mabinton, we do send notices for the school board meeting on Fridays. So there is a mechanism we have to let the community know about it. I have seen similar free speech zone established around Capitol and Farmers Market and different places. They do have designated free speech. We have to provide, at least in my opinion, we have to provide a free speech zone where people they do have a fundamental right to protest. And I'm not in support of taking away that right, which is different from the potential risks. I had actually sought a legal opinion from Mr. DeCopoulos some time ago. What if the glass breaks and a little child or an adult ends up getting seriously injured, or the glass breaks in the passion of emotion, they come inside, and then we are talking about potential legal risks and so many other risks of coming in the way. So these are some very important questions that I'm glad we are discussing.
I have another question. So if they do want to protest.
Push your button. Sorry. If they do want to protest, where would they go?
Well, under the current discussion, the idea would be that the parking lot of this building would be available for that purpose, but not the sidewalk that leads into this front set of windows, nor the flower bed that has been trampled on the east side of the building. So the perimeter would be off limits so people don't beat on the windows so loud that the board can't conduct its business. And that's the basic idea.
I also have some safety concerns. When the doorways and exits are all duct taped, and it really poses safety concerns of egress or potentially barricading the occupants inside. So I really think these are all serious matters. We have to kind of discuss it openly and say, how do we balance the ability to protest, First Amendment versus safety? Go ahead, Mr. Wolf, and then we'll go to Director.
Thank you, Chair Chandragiri. I would also say that we will go through a thorough risk assessment and determine the best location so that it's least disruptive but still honors the free speech. So I can't tell you that it's going to be right here, but I can say that we'll do our due diligence and make sure that we've got it in an appropriate space.
Director Hine?
What's that about duct tape? They're duct taping the doors? Is that what you're saying?
Last time the door handles were duct taped so people couldn't get out, as I understand it. We have reached out and we're assured that they wouldn't do that again. So we have reached out on that.
These are really important because we need to ensure the egress is maintained. There are some safety codes we have to maintain, at least the way I understand it has to be maintained, yet we need to balance it with the ability to protest.
Everything sounds fair, 100%. My only concern is what Director Gross said. If it would be removing them from the parking lot, like off of this whole property, then I feel like that would be going into a little bit of taking away the right to protest. But also, that's where I feel like maybe the issue would come in, not being around the building, but in the parking lot. That might be another safety hazard.
Well, those are things I'm going to ask Mr. Wolf to kind of come up with a risk assessment and identify a properly designated, nicely covered area which they can use it for all weather protest. That way it is safe. And, it's really important to provide that ability to protest. That's protected in our First Amendment.
I love that. Are we ready to move ahead with the vote?
Yeah. So I really think this is a serious matter, and I really would like to know if we can go ahead and take a vote on this so that we can start conducting the public meeting and respect the public meeting law so the public can hear what we are discussing. I mean, they're not able to come in. At least they should be able to listen and hear.
Let me then restate this again since it's quiet. The The motion would be in two parts. Number one, to establish for the district to establish a free speech zone in this location or any location in which the board is meeting. And two, to authorize the district through its security department to establish a no trespass zone directly around the perimeter of the building in order to allow the board to have to be able to conduct public meetings without interference and disruption. And it would only apply to the perimeter of a building in which the board is having a board meeting.
Is there anybody like to move that motion or second? Is it open?
I have a question.
Go
I
ahead.
just don't understand why they can't be trespassed now. They can move to the sidewalk, that is their legal right, but if they're on this property and potentially breaking glass and causing disruption, I'm just confused as to why they cannot be trespassed now. They can be asked to leave, and if they don't leave, then you call the police and trespass them.
Yeah, Mr. Dekopoulos, would you like to answer?
Well, probably the best way to answer that is there's some history of allowing this as a board in past board meetings, and so simply making the decision tonight with no notice to anyone will be might be problematic both for this board and for the students who have come to expect that they can do this. And there needs to be a public discussion about how disruptive this is and where's an appropriate place to protest. But the board still has to conduct the business of the district. And so the thought was simply ordering this tonight with no notice may be unfair or too surprising.
Thank you, Mr. Dekopoulos. That, any other discussion before we kind of, yeah.
I'd just like to add that in the event that tonight we progress through this agenda and we're unable to provide equal access to the public because of any distractions, we can vote to terminate the board meeting and postpone it for a later date. We're statutorily required, by law, we're required to allow the public to engage. And if they cannot hear us because they're on virtual land, then we have the responsibility to postpone. And I'm prepared to do that because we have a lot of really great things that the public needs to engage in tonight on this agenda, and hopefully we're allowed to do that. But just so you know, if it gets to that point, then I'll be making a motion to terminate the meeting.
Just to add to what Vice Chair Bethel says, this is really important for me. Today, we are going to pass the resolution on LGBTQ+. This is really important. Last month, we really focused on Asian American and Pacific Islander. And I really think I would like to embrace and really walk the walk of having diversity and inclusion of different communities. And it really is important to honor when we read the land acknowledgement for the community to hear and really understand the sacredness of this document. It is not, as Dr. Lepol-Pion's rightly said, it's a sacred. So we need to allow that, and for that we need to be able to conduct the board business in such a way that the public can also not just see but understand and participate here. So we have to take a decision so that we can proceed. Plus, we have some very important agenda today.
Okay.
So is there a motion to approve this?
I make the motion to approve this resolution.
Is there anybody who is...
As presented by Mr. Dekopoulos.
Yep.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Director Blassie?
We just call for the vote. We had discussion.
All right. We'll call for the vote. Yes,
Before we call for the vote, I do have some discussion.
please.
And I guess that it centers around the fact that I won't be here anymore, so I'm really not too worried about what I have to say. But I have to be direct in that we asked to have this stopped earlier. We asked to have the phoning that we dealt with at every meeting stopped. And now we've gone still full circle, and now we've come up with a plan to stop the phoning, and I agree with that. But now it's like a slap in the face to be told, well, you didn't act soon enough. Well, I can't buy that, Paul. I would have appreciated some resolution earlier, so we haven't sat through all this. But that's all I have to say. I will be voting no on the motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? I think we'll take a vote now. We have had a discussion. So let's start with Dr. Hine. How do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Lepolpion?
Yes.
Dr. Goss?
No.
Dr. Kylo?
No.
Vice Chair Beto?
Yes.
Dr. Blassie?
Yes.
I'll be voting yes. So we had 2 noes, Dr. Goss and Dr. Kylo, and we had all others voted yes, so the motion passes.
You should never
Yes.
have seated me next to you down here.
All right.